What's going on, workforce? Brian here, and today on Community Feedback we're talking about fates and how to fix them, and pretty much highlighting your comments and your thoughts on the fate system in general. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do it and talk about you. If you haven't seen the video from before, I'll put a card here on one of these corners, as well as a link in the description below for you guys to check out. But now, let's go ahead and talk about you guys. So Lothar X writes, the problem I see with fates is that they don't synergize properly with other content. Basically, if you queue for a dungeon and you go do some fate while waiting, once the queue pops, if you're doing a fate, you'll have to abandon it, and once you come back, the fate will be gone and you'll have gotten no XP whatsoever from it. So fates get in the way of dungeons and vice versa. You have to pick one in the end. And Lothar, this is a fantastic comment, and one that I was like, oh my gosh, yes. If there was some way that you could kind of get some kind of partial credit that when you queue back in your participation in the fate, yeah, it might not be a gold, but maybe you still got a bronze or a silver, depending on how long you stayed in it. Rather than having to make that hard choice, there's still something waiting for you when you got back. Maybe that, your prize or whatever, if it was a system or technological issue, they would just, hey, you can go talk to this person and hey, here's your XP reward, etc. In case, I don't know, I guess maybe you had to switch jobs or something like that. But I agree. There's been many a times, both with fates and even with leaves, that's happened. And even with leaves, it's just, they are what they are. So it didn't feel like I was losing out too much. With the fate, sometimes, that could be a substantial amount of XP that you're leaving on the table. So I fully hear it. I think this is a fantastic point, and it'd be a great idea to see. I think that just falls right into the total quality of life of the fate system itself at some point in the future. The fact that they have us where we can log out and log back in the same stance, maybe this is, maybe they're moving this way at some point. So maybe there's hope. I don't know, but thanks so much for the comment. Then Hasnako writes, I'd like to see a fate-only currency to spend on mounts or glamour only gotten via fates. It's what made me grind MPG while in queue. I do the same with fates. I'd probably make it only max level or higher so people are incentivized to help lower and such. Could add stuff like dyes which are consumed to create drive to participate more. No RNG though. I'd like to see progress, not just luck. Just my thoughts. And thanks. I'm just going to say Hasna, just in case I'm getting it way wrong. That's actually really an interesting idea. I mean, because we also have a couple comments that talk about currencies, and we do have a lot of currencies in game, but just some way of making progress. Let's say every 10 fates that you do outside your challenge log, that you had some just like, hey, I can go cash this in and get like that die or something of that nature. Because to incentivize fates. And this is actually on the heels of kind of Yoshi P's comments regarding open world content and how to continually incentivize people going out and doing it. And so having some type of fate type currency I could see as a positive. It's obviously as long as it's in your currency tab, and it's easy to kind of use and you can kind of track that kind of progress. I'm not against it. I think personally I would like to see the other currencies highlighted that we currently have. We have a lot of currencies. I'm at the point where I'm kind of at currency overload, so maybe make it Citrino seals or allied seals or seal, just even increasing the base number of seals that we have would be a huge improvement in my opinion, but not against it. Not a bad idea. I'd love to know what everybody thinks if there should be a fate-only currency, so sound off in the comments below. And thanks so much for the comment. And so on that note, then Azura Moonstar writes, I'd like to see allied and Centrino seals drop from fates. I'm not asking for a nerf. The hunt system is messy. The Grand Company hunt bill is just 2 1 and 1 daily and 1 weekly and 2 fate bosses as a part of it. Why not just add seals to fates and add more rewards like Matera for crafting or gathering glamour prisms as a way to upgrade gear outside of raiding? Give people more options to do content and give them meaningful rewards. I do not hate the fate system, but the grindy aspects like holiday events, Atma, Lumna, farming, they need to fix a lot of older systems outside of the fates to make things more consistent. And so yes, absolutely, that's the biggest complaint that I have. And again, this is a fun and a weird thing to complain about. The game's fantastic. I'm enjoying it very much so. But just the simple fact that they have to incentivize it with relics in the past, and we don't know what the new kind of phase of it's going to be, it just drove a lot of people to doing this content just for the sake of, I guess, incentivizing that activity and that open worldness of it. And why just wait to those periods of time? Why just wait till that happens? Make it constant, make it always, like you said, where you can work on these things. And sure, you know, you can easily control the drop rate in those things and with those things so that it's not like easily the most efficient. I mean, just imagine doing your hunts, and then while you're doing hunts, you know, fates are going on. It's just one piece of content that can almost, like Lothar said, synergize with other pieces of content that already exist in the game, where the question should be, hey, there's a fate over there, should we do it? And the answer could be yes or no. I mean, where you have, you know, that freedom to say, yeah, there is a great value in it. Now, from the hunts and the way that they progress, right? Because, you know, it's more of a mathematical equation when it comes to how progression works with getting the logs to be able to upgrade your gear. So if they're like, hey, you can run so many fates and, you know, and hunts within this range, which would theoretically, if you're really grinding it, be a max cap of this versus just the average cap of this, you know, try to find that kind of sweet spot regarding how those trickle out. So Azura, thanks so much for your comment. I'd love to know what other people think about putting these type of currencies in the fate system that we currently have. Let me know in the comments below. All right, then, so Codebreaker writes, my favorite fate is the one in Forgotten Springs where the worms are attacking the town. It's simple, which gave me an idea. What if at X amount of time, for X amount of time, there was a war scale fate, where you would have to defend the main cities from the horde attack of monsters. Each city could have different difficulties, i.e. in Gridania, level 5 to 25, Foundation 30 to 50, Kugane 55 to 70. And winning or losing the battle can have bonuses or penalties. Losing may affect the city's taxes and raise NPCs and add recovery tax on the marketplace. Winning could give participants discounts at NPCs, reduce marketplace tax in that city, XP boost for that region, etc. Give each city a grand company liaison to exchange with. So, Codebreaker, you are a genius. Now, this sounds a lot like the Treasures of Oregot. I can't even pronounce it, so we'll just say Treasures expansion in Final Fantasy XI, in which you had this kind of besieged type of gameplay that happened to the town. And I love this idea. I think this is absolutely would be fantastic to participate in, and especially if it's kind of you were able to still level sync to that. Now, whether this would happen in town or just outside of town, you know, honestly, I vote for both. The challenge, obviously, in I guess the fear would be if there was a new player who's starting out and it's level 5 and it's happening in the town and he's getting destroyed because he's level 1 and there's these level, you know, 10 monsters that are in town just trying to, you know, to wreck everything. And ideally, maybe, I guess, make it optional to opt in or something like that. I don't know. Like, there's obviously some logistics and coordination that would have to occur, but man, this sounds great. Even if it didn't happen in the starting levels, even if it was something that you would see happen at various outposts or aetherites, you know, within the game itself. And yeah, maybe even color those type of fates, those war scale fates, a little bit differently to kind of communicate that. But I love it. I love that idea. I want this. So we're flying you to Japan. Congratulations. And you're going to go do this for us. So I wish I had that kind of a power and influence in the game, but I don't. Anyway, thanks, Codebreaker, for the comment. I love the idea. Let's make it happen. So Maya writes, now, what I'm going to say will be slightly less oriented towards what would make me do fates, but rather some I would like to see similar in that vein. It's a rather over-ambitious idea, but I think it'd be cool for a certain interval in a day a whole region, say Northern Thanalan or South Shroud, came under attack from Garlemald airships, trying to reclaim Eorzea. There would be a big old purple fate circles covering the whole zone, and for that same time, a large-scale objectives everyone can fight for on the server if they wish to participate. Multiple bits and pieces that you can do, such as take out bosses, of which there might be 3 or 4 in the region, collect resources from the place where they are hunkered down and turn to the nearest settlement, or just killing the enemy, each giving your contribute bonus for the overall event. And Meyer and Codebreaker, this is exactly, I think, what I'm talking about, or at least what I'm hoping for that world scale fate. That concept that is something that it's bringing the whole server together. So it's more than just a fate, but it's kind of this event, this thing that is happening, and if you can participate in it. From a balance issue, I know that some people will be like, well, this happens and I'm never online. I'm never able to participate in it. So it would obviously need to happen at some kind of frequency in which that, you know, everybody would have an opportunity to do this. And then again, tying the whole community together with various bonuses for whether the zone or for participating. Yes, yes, please. So I love your idea as well. In fact, that kind of ties in again to the lore. Like, how are they going to progress? Like, what is Garlemald's response going to be after Stormblood, after we've taken back Doma and Gorabanya? Are they just going to sit back and just kind of like, okay, well, keep coming to us, or are they going to go on the offensive? And so lore-wise, this, I think, would be so exciting to participate in, and also then present that concept that we are at war, and how do we represent that? And I think that's the best way to do it is with these type of fates. And hopefully then, there's always going to be this weird balance. I mean, they did use fates to drive quests to access like certain things like the Crystal Tower at some point, and there was definitely some annoyances there. So from a lore perspective, from a quest perspective, do they use it to drive story? Do they use it to drive like, okay, you need to do and participate on the front lines, not PvP front lines, but in this case, a certain amount of time to help progress the story? I hope we don't see that, even though there is a value in it, because then it kind of does, add to the narrative. But I'd love to know what you guys think. So Meyer and Codebreaker's comments are here kind of grouped together. Love to know your thoughts on Codebreaker's idea, Meyer's idea, blend them together. All of it's good. But again, Meyer, thanks so much for the comment. So Moondust writes, personally, I don't like the fate system at all. Part of the fact that most of us are burned doing them for several reasons. Most of the game is based around the idea of party synergy and strategy and structured content. Fates, even in the form of Diadem, are too messy and chaotic, and it doesn't go along with the rest of the game. At the end of the day, if there isn't any thought process involved in doing them, no matter how many changes they make, after some time they will get very tedious content. And so Moondust, you actually have, a very good point here. Having the fates and kind of just doing them very haphazardly, very, where it just go kill, mindlessly for this type of content, it's not going to necessarily get you what you want. And in fact, yeah, I can see how it's counterintuitive to the really thought out and designed boss fights within, obviously like, the trials and the dungeons and the raids. The challenge that I see, from the developer's point of view is how do you balance that? How do you know how many people are participating in it? Now, one of the things I've always asked for is that you scale. Like you say, if 20 people are participating in this fate, try to do X, Y, and Z, try to build in that thing. But then there's also the challenge that you have these people coming together and they might not necessarily be communicating. If somebody needs to do something, how do you communicate that when you're not in a party? And maybe there's some quality of life there regarding like auto partying people together who aren't in, because right now you can do looking for party and jump in to do some of that stuff, but it does require the effort, as opposed to, oh, we see that we have 4 people out here participating and they have the auto party flag set on. So the fate system, for what it is, I get what you want, and I want it too, that type of like interesting content, and maybe that can exist in a special tier, like we were talking earlier with Codebreaker and Meyer about like purple fates or these world server things where you have multiple objectives, and so you can all see what the objectives are and then decide what you feel like you would be best to participate in. Is it knocking out these big bosses that you can at that point, if there's enough participation, drive that, some kind of challenge and some kind of, mechanics there, right? I'm not making the case that you shouldn't put mechanics in there, just the fact that you need to communicate that certain things are different. Because up to this point, we've had blue fates and they've literally been, like you said, exactly what they are. If all of a sudden they jump up and become something that's mechanically driven, that you can fail the fate if you're not doing something properly, you're going to see a lot of confusion in the community because we have not been trained that the fates are that way. So that's where it's like, whether they're red, they're purple, or whatever we want to do, some way to communicate that this is a step above the normal fate system in and of itself, thus driving a little bit more into it. And then, yes, then they need to make sure that there's mechanics that have to happen, that there's these boss fights that happen in the world, that certain things need to happen, that there's these, server-wide things. These are all, I guess, a part of the wish list that I've got. And I think you bring up a really good point, because if there aren't mechanics, if there aren't things, if you can just burn things down, and then at some point, just like anything in the game, you're going to get tired of it and you're just not going to do it because there's no challenge. Now, you can offset that with reward for a little while, but at the long term, short term, let's just try to get it right the first time. But Moondust, thanks so much for the comment. I love what you're thinking, and I agree. So then Lieutenant LTG writes, they should have a Horde mode fate that around so many people can join and try to survive through the levels. Or you could actually have a fate where that you're the enemy and you're the one who's trying to attack the players, and you become the monster and try to kill people who are participating in the fate. you know, in that case. Lieutenant, you know, I love the concept of the Horde mode idea. I love Horde modes in games. I think that they're a lot of fun. In fact, that's actually one of the things that I would really like to see even with the leave system as a part of endgame currency, where you could spend 100 leaves and then you can just try to survive kind of in a boss rush mode of a Horde, you know, kind of approach where you take your friends, you try to survive for as long as you can, you get ranked, scored, and rewarded. But the same concept can exist in Fates. Yeah, you could have that. Again, I think marking that fate in and of itself, that this is the type of fate, so you can kind of jump in and try to survive for as long as you can. It'd be interesting, though. I think it would have to be, if you were going to do it and do it right in a good way, it'd have to be one of those fates where it's announced, you know, people go and start to get ready for it, and then you have to be participating in it from the start as opposed to jumping in, you know, in round 30, etc., because that might be a little chaotic. Now, as far as a fate in which that you're playing the bad guy and then attacking, that would have to, I think there's a lot of changes that would have to happen with the game, essentially open world PvP, some kind of, you know, versus, and that can happen if we did get some kind of world v world participation. I'm not knocking it. I love the thinking outside the box, and I really appreciate the comment. I just, that could be, there's just a lot there to unpack, and there'd have to be, I mean, in and of itself, it's more that, yeah, I think that falls more into the PvP style nature of it, because, you know, is it going to randomly assign you as, you know, a bad guy or a good guy, or is this something where, you know, it is that kind of, you know, kind of world PvP or that type of thing. So there's a lot to unpack there. Maybe I need to make a video just focusing in on the state of PvP, world PvP, PvPs, so many Ps, and you know, even world v world, things like that we'd still want to see. Obviously, on the cusp of 4.15, where we're getting a new PvP mode, I'm very looking forward to that, and that almost might kind of fit in that style where you have two teams kind of battling it out, and you know, that could be a lot of fun. So let me know, weigh in on once you've participated in Rival Wings, and see if that kind of is what you're thinking about, or if there's something more that you want to add to it. But regardless, thanks, Lieutenant, for the comment, and thanks everybody for your comments in this video. It's been a ton of fun. This has been a crazy week for me, but your comments have been just just the best. Anyway, for Work to Game, my name's Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you on my next. But until then, guys, y'all have a fantastic week, and take care. Look at this baby. Look at this baby. She's so happy. Oh yeah, she's like, let me play some Final Fantasy, Dad. I can do it.